Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we are going to continue our discussions and forecast the working capital. And within working capital, we would talk about receivables, inventories, and payables for estimate and forecast years. So before we continue with that, first of all, let us group all the segment within this tax and tax on operations, which is from row number 94 to 90 under input and calculation sheet. So I go to my Alt A Z O, which is basically within data, outline, and group, and I group all these rows. And then I go up and I come to cell number B36 and I hard code PPE, debt, tax, and other elements. So these would be the header for these things. So I change the cell style to heading 4. I select the row from 37 up to row number 43. So Alt A Z O G G. And here we have everything grouped in this particular segment. Before we get everything and start working around with working capital, let us save this file. The name of the file will be 20.finmodbritannia working capital. Now we come to this particular segment, which is cell number B96 to D96. I change the cell style to heading 3 and I hard code working capital. And within working capital for us, we will work around with receivables, inventory, and payables. So let's get the historic data for receivable, inventory, and payables for us. We come to balance sheet. We go to the segment where we have receivables, and we have as of now the receivables starting from March 22. We will also require the data for March 21 as well. So I simply just copy this, which is cell number G7, and paste it in cell number F7 within balance sheet. So I also get the same data for receivables for the financial year 2021. I select the segment which is from F7 to J7. I copy this. I come to input and calculation. I come to cell number F97 and paste special as link. Let's go back for inventory and same. I copy G8 for inventory and paste it in the cell number F8 for inventory values closing for March 2021. Copy all the historic elements starting from F8 to J8. Come to input and calculation in cell number J98 and paste special as link. Same ways we go for payables. We come down and when we look at this particular row number, which is 15, I copy G15 and paste it at F15. Select F15 up to J15 and copy. Come to input and calculation sheet cell number F99 where the row header is payables. And we have historic elements or historic details for payables. So this is basically the first part of our forecasting of these three line items. Let's go up and let's work at this cell, which is cell number B45, which will be represented as working capital. I change the cell style to heading 4 and let's keep our focus for receivables first of all. For receivables, what we will do is we will calculate receivable days. To calculate receivable days, I will also require to use 365 as a number. And in our model, we have something in cell number E16 called as model days per period. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a cell name for this. So let us say the convention within the model changes from 365 to 360 or to 366. So model or the ratios within the model is going to adjust the formulas accordingly. So I come to this cell, I select this E16. I come at this segment and I'm going to change the cell name. And this is going to be DAYS. Pressing enter. And the moment I come to this, we can see this is called as something as days. Now, just to give you that how this is going to work, if I come to this cell and just say equals to days, you can see that a new function is coming up. And when I press tab and press enter, it directly links with this equals to days. And when I try to see that where it is coming from, this is coming from cell number E16. Okay. So since this cell is also named, we are also going to create new cell styles for ourselves. So I go to cell styles, come to new cell style. I write cell name. I uncheck numbers, alignment, borders, protection. I go to format. I come to font. I change the color of the text, which is, let us say, I'm giving it blue and giving it a bold in color. I press OK and also uncheck this fill and press OK. When I look at the cell style, I have a new cell style called as cell name here. So I write the name of this cell, which is just adjacent to this particular cell. So the name of E16 is written in F16, and I change the cell style to cell name. So this clearly gives the user information that this cell, which is E16, is named as days. Now let's come back to the ratios calculation, which is receivable days. I come to this cell, which is cell number G46, equals to average receivables for the current year and the previous financial year closing. Multiply this with days and divide it by the gross sale value. And what do I find? That this is giving us 7.4. Now, I would also like to have a new cell style which would be called as days. Just like if you can recall, when we were talking about a multiple, while we were addressing this, we had something called as debt by EBITDA multiple, dot like kind of an X. So I come back to this cell, which is cell number G46. I go to cell style, new cell style. I uncheck everything apart from numbers. I change this as days. I go to format. I come to number. I come here and write DAYS for positives, space, days for negative, and finally the days for 0. I press OK. I press OK. I get this days in our cell style. And the moment I press this, you can see this is 7.4 days. And I believe that you also understand what is the usage of this. If I use this as a function, something like this, so G46 plus 1, this is going to give us this 8.4. Copying the formula to the right for the remaining periods for all the historic years. And this is what we have for the receivable days. If we try to look at the behavior of the company, we can say that the receivable days average somewhere around 7.4 to 8.3. From 22 to 24, this has been within 7.4 to 7.6, but for the March 25, it has been up to like 8.3. I come to cell number P46. I change this to input. I change this to days. I guess that this is going to be 6.5 days. So the company is going to have a better receivable management over the years. And parallelly, they are also expected to increase the revenue as we have already expecting that. And subsequently, they are going to follow that the declining measure as we have talked about. So let's look at the formula, bring the formula for us, copying a formula and pasting it here, changing the format only to days, remaining rest all is everything is okay. I go back, I copy this thing and put it at right. So what do we find? This is going to get from 8, 7.7, 7.4, 7.1, 6.8, getting up to 6.5. This is what we have for the working capital receivable days for estimate and forecast years. Using this, we are going to forecast what will be the receivables and also using the gross sale value. I come to cell number K97 equals to my revenue gross sale value divided by the days multiplied by the forecasted receivable days, which is K46. I press tab and here we have the forecasted receivable for us. I change the cell style for J97 to deviant. I copy the formula to Right. And here we have the receivable date. As of now, I won't be copying this forecasted receivables to the balance sheet because this might create some error because the forecasted receivable will also influence the cash flow position of the company. So let's work around with the inventory right now and let's handle the inventory days as of now. So we write this inventory days, which we will use to forecast the inventory. And this time we are going to refer to some of the elements of COGS, not all, but some of the elements of COGS. So let's come to this cell, which is inventory days. We'll look at the average of inventory. We multiply this with days, and we are going to divide with the sum value of cost of material consumed, purchase of stock in trade, and changes in WIP because these are going to influence our inventory. So I close this up and press tab. And here we have, which is 51.2. And I change this to days format. Copy this to all the remaining historic years. And we can see that inventory days is gradually decreasing, which we can say that the inventory management by the company is improving. This is what we can see. Let's come to cell number P47. Let's go to inputs. And our assumption is that this improvement is going to continue. And for that, we are expecting that this will fall down, which is inventory days, up to 35 days. Cell number K47 will have similar formula as we have in K46. So copy and paste. Copying this formula from K47 to all the remaining years in between. And here we have all the forecasted and estimate inventory days. Let's use this and get the forecasted inventory. We look at the forecasted element of the COGS. We divide this by days and multiply it with inventory days. I change the cell style to deviant for cell number J98. I copy the formula to write for all the remaining forecast years for inventory. The last part within working capital is forecasting payables. So let's calculate the payable days this time. Payable days. And this is going to be average of payables into days divided by the COGS part, which is all these three. We close this, I press the tab, and we are getting 54.9, changing the format to days. And I'm copying this to all the historic years. What do we find? We find that the payable days over the years are increasing. Now, payable days are technically beneficial for the company if the company is looking forward for financing their working capital. So this is going to continue somewhere on the same lines, which is our assumption. So cell number P48, cell style input, format days, and getting this to 60 days for cell number P48, copying the formula in between, so K47 to K48, copy and paste up to this point, and we have forecasted payable days for estimate and forecast years. Let's use this to calculate payables. So we are going to have forecasted COGS element divided by days multiplied by forecasted payable days. So this is what we have, the estimate payables for March 26, changing the cell style to deviant for cell number J99, copying the formula from K99 to remaining cells for payables. And here we have all the forecasted elements for payables, inventory and receivables. If we directly copy this in balance sheet, this is also going to create a model error because this is going to create some kind of discrepancy. imbalance between assets and equity and liabilities. And for that, we are going to calculate, which is going to be called as changes in working capital, which will be basically part of cash flow statement. So heading 3. And there is one more thing which we can also calculate, which is cash conversion cycle. So the cash conversion cycle, and let's do this for historic and forecast both the years. So receivable days plus inventory days minus payable days, and we have this as 3.7, changing the format to days, copying this to right for all the years. And just to handle this hash, I've selected all the rows and making it alt HOI. So this gives us everything intact. Let's give a bold in color. I'm not using subtotal. And this is what we have, the cash conversion cycle. So we are expecting a negative cash conversion cycle for the forecast year, and for the last two financial year for historic, we already have this negative cash conversion cycle. Let's also do one more thing, which is we are going to also select these rows from 46 to 49 and group them. And here we have for working capital, COGS, we don't need to do anything. Now let's handle the changes in working capital. Now for this changes in working capital, we are going to talk about changes in receivables, changes in inventory, changes in payables. And we are not going to handle anything for the historic year, so we are keeping this as blank. We come to this cell and we are going to ask ourselves that for payables, sorry, for receivables, if receivables goes up, cash is coming in or going out of the business. Right now, we can see that the receivables is decreasing. So if reduction in receivable is happening, that means the customers who were supposed to pay has already paid. That means the cash has come in. This has chip in. How much the cash is coming in into the business, the difference between these two. So the formula for cell number K102 is going to be J97 minus K97. Basically, the receivable of previous year minus receivable of current year. Now, this is for March 26, we have positive cash flows coming from receivables. Subsequently, we see that the receivable is increasing, which means the cash is going out from the business for receivables. So that is why we have this as negative. So I'm copying the formula to right. Now let's talk about inventory in this part. So for inventory, let's look at these two things. It was 1236.5 for March 25 and 1245 for March 26. We can see that inventory has increased. The reason for inventory to increase would be cash going out from the business. So the formula is going to be the previous year, which is from 1236.5 minus 1245. So this is going to be negative. We select this, I select the array and I copy right. So this is cash is going out for March 26 for inventories. Let's talk about payables. 1752.20 for payables for previous year, 1797. So the company was supposed to pay 1752 and supposed to pay 1797. So that means outstanding amount is increasing. That means the company is holding the cash which they were supposed to pay to their suppliers, which means cash inflow. This change is basically cash inflow. So March 26 payables minus March 25 payables. So basically K99 minus J99. So this is positive. I copy write this formula to all the remaining financial years for the forecast year. And here we have the changes in working capital, which will also go parallelly to cash flow statement when we copy receivables, inventory, payables to balance sheet. Let's also calculate the final investments in working capital. So investment in working capital. Let me select this array and change this to subtotal. Let's come to cell number G105 and let's give a formula from here itself. And here we have the investments in working capital. So remember that this is not an investment. So technically, if this value is positive, that means from working capital, the company is generating cash because all the receivables and inventories is getting financed from payables. Receivables and inventory is getting financed from payable. Receivables and inventory is getting financed from payables. And that is was the reason why we were seeing the working capital, which is basically the cash conversion cycle, was negative, and which has also happened for the historic years as well. If this would have been positive, what that would have mean, it would have mean that the company internally is investing in working capital. Okay, now let's complete the last part, which is getting all the forecasted elements to the respective financial statement line items. So let's go with receivables. The moment I link this, the receivables, we are going to find some kind of an error. Don't worry about this. So I copy this, come to cell number K7 under BS sheet. I paste this as link. You can find a trace error, change the cell style to deviant for cell number J7, come back to input and calculation, select the changes in receivable, copy this, come to cash flow statement, come to cell number K8 and paste special as link. And moment we link this changes, the trace error is gone and we are back to model is okay. Change the cell style for J8 to deviant. Now let's do the same thing for inventory. First, we copy the inventory to balance sheet, forecasted inventory. So balance sheet, cell number K8, pay special as link. Change the cell style for cell number J8 to deviant. Again, we can see we have trace error. Coming back to input and calculation, selecting the array for changes in inventory, which is from cell number K103 to P103. Copy this, come to cash flow statement, cell number K9, pay special as link, and we can see we are back to model is okay for in cell number E1, changing the cell style for J9 to deviant. Coming back finally for payables, which is selecting the array from K99 to P99 and from input and calculation, going to balance sheet, coming to cell number K15, and I paste special as link, we can find trace error, changing the cell style to deviant for cell number J15, coming back to input and calculation, selecting the array K104 to P104, which is basically changes in payable, going to cash flow statement, cell number K10, pasting special as link, we are back to model is okay, selecting J10, changing the cell style to deviant. Now we have linked everything within this working capital. I select this blank array, which is other operating line items in cash flow statement, change this to blank cell because we are not going to insert anything. Select this array, which is row number 15, which talks about changes in equity. So let's change this to blank cell. Same goes for other investing and financing, which is plugin number K17 to P17, changing this to blank cell. Same we are going to do for the segment where we have K23 to P24, changing this to blank cell. So now when we look at these, we have actually forecasted all the important line item for us in cash flow statement, income statement, and also in balance sheet. So you can see the respective changes which is happening, and these are the all the elements which are going to be relevant for us also to do the valuation of the company. The last step, we are going to group everything for this working capital. So let's keep the changes in working capital separately. So again, Alt A Z O G G for working capital. And let's also keep the changes in working capital separately. So selecting this row, Alt A ZOGG, which is for changes in working capital. Now, when we look at in our input and calculation sheet, let's look here. It looks neat, right? And every of the row, all the rows are grouped, and all the rows which are grouped also have its own header. So this marks the completion of forecasting the important line items. And in our next video, we are going to start working for the valuation aspect. We are going to start working around to value this particular company on this specific day, on a specific day. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, drop this into a comment box.